Hello and welcome to the Transcendence Podcast. This is your host, Jessica Alstrom, and I am going to do a podcast today that actually I was just going to do as a written blog, but I thought, you know what, let's just do it this way, and because it can be utilized in every facet. So the name of this podcast is How to Stay Conscious During the Holidays. And it's probably something that most of us go through this time of year, where we have been working on ourselves, on our journey, and studying, and we've really found ecstasy in the learning and remembering of this work that we're all studying right now. And basically that work is how to be the most aware version of yourself and how to be totally free. And that usually is what comes up during family holiday celebrations, is all of a sudden your subconscious and your body remember how unfree you've been, how unauthentic you are allowed to be your whole life. And I love that quote that says, if you think you're enlightened, go spend a week with your family, because that is just absolutely true. So what I've done is I've put together about 7 different ways for us to survive the holidays without dropping out of our personal vibration. And this can be used for any situation. A work party, it doesn't have to be holidays, but this time of year is actually not the happiest time of the year subconsciously. It's actually the most fear-based, lack-based, resentment-based. We're facing old humiliations. Why don't you have a real job? And all of those things that once we see our families once or 2 to 3 times a year, they don't understand who we've become. And so I put together basically 7 steps of ways that we can stay totally ourselves and be authentic, regardless of where we go and regardless of what we're doing. And the first one is basically, and I teach this a lot in Tika, don't ever do anything you don't want to do. I know it sounds like easier said than done, but you know what? Screw obligation. Obligation is one of the things your whole entire life that has taken you away from self-love. It has taken you away from remembering who you were so that you could become what someone else needed or wanted. And that's the way that you learned what love was. And that's the way that you show love, is by showing up, by being there for people, by, celebrating holidays that maybe don't even resonate with you at this stage of your awareness game. And so the first one is all about really sitting and looking at your holiday plans and your New Year's plans and the next year's plans, and getting really honest with yourself and deciding, do I want to be here? How do I feel when I spend time with these people? Can I feel my vibration drip out of alignment? Can I feel myself feeling small and insecure? And when they challenge us with those 3D questions like success and healthy relationships and, what are you doing with your life, when all you want to do is go become an organic farmer, they freak out. And so first and foremost, number 1 is don't attend any conversation, any party, any family function that you're going to have to drop out of your personal frequency and vibration in order to just interact. And I'm not saying that we don't love these people, because we do. We love our families. We love some of our friends to the core of us. But this journey that we're on right now is about self-love. And until the planet reaches about 56% self-love, our utopia, our new world, cannot really it can't really show us the seeds of it being grown, because self-love is at the basis of all pain, lack of self-love. And so that's number 1, is really decide whether or not you want to be, do, or have part in anything that has to do with this holiday season. And it's funny because I do a lot of coaching, and I get blamed a lot. Well, Jessica said I didn't have to go to that family function because it's not my highest joy. And you know what? I have no problem. I have no problem being that person. I've gotten letters from grandparents and husbands that are not very happy with me, that are saying, ever since my wife or husband has been seeing you, they just want to, be free, and they want to change. And the truth is they don't want to change. They want to be authentic. They want to be and do and have the things that really fire up their soul, not fire up your soul. And that's what obligation is all about. So number one is about letting go of obligation, sitting to yourself and saying, the only one that I'm truly obligated in this holiday season is me, because I'm going to have to be with me for the rest of my life, and I only see these people a couple of times a year. And it's also very cool because once you do that, you actually give other family members and friends the opportunity to look at their personal obligations that have slowed them down. Now, number two is if you find yourself in obligation, this is a really, really good tool for you to become enlightened teacher that most of you already are. You are the teacher, but it's very hard to be the teacher in old paradigms, in old emotions, in old feelings, an old cellular memory that's just showing up at your grandma's house. Your body is flooded with feelings and emotions. It's very important that once you actually show up, say it's a Christmas dinner, maybe it's family work parties, things that you're just dreading as the introvert. One of the things that you can do, and I do this a lot, is instead of showing up at the party and feeling like I totally have to be a part of that party, I really become the observer. And when I become the observer of that situation, I don't lose myself because I'm slightly standing outside of the communication. It doesn't mean that I'm offering communication, but I'm not embodying the conversation. I'm not listening to, my aunt's story about how many cancers she's had, because as soon as I start to hear all of these stories that don't resonate with my soul, I'm going to start feeling bad. So what I do is I say, okay, I'm going to walk into this obligation, and I am going to be the observer, which means I am going to play a game, and I'm going to see who and what everybody's experiencing on their level of awareness. We know, if you've listened to my podcast about feelings versus emotions and soul wounds and soul mates and wound mates, at the basis of every cynical uncle or every angry grandfather or every martyr-based mother, that there's a wounded child under there. And your job is to just see the child, and you won't get triggered. You will not get triggered. Because what you're going to be doing is you're going to be looking past their behavior. You're going to be looking past what it is that they're saying. You're going to be looking past the insults and the sarcasm, and you're going to see what language they're actually speaking underneath, and that is, I want to be loved. I want to be seen and heard. I want to feel nurtured. And when people grow up and don't get to experience that in their first 7 years, it's like a constant tantrum. So you can see adults throwing tantrums, but it's more about criticizing you. When people don't want to look within, they are really quick to look at you at what you're not doing. And so your job for the second step is to become the observer and to really create a healthy boundary before you walk in that door, that nothing that's going on in this party has anything to do with me. They're all just stuck in these programs, and this is how they think they are. And so if you can be really compassionate, find the wounds in each and every person and love them accordingly. And the example I have is, if you have a really loud uncle that gets really drunk and, starts getting belligerent, then what he's saying is I don't have enough attention. I don't have enough connection with myself. So if I'm going to be upset, everyone's going to be upset. And one of the ways that you can handle that is you just walk up very kindly and say, you know what, I totally understand. I totally hear what you're saying. Wow, we've never been heard before. You don't engage into the conversation with all of your spiritual knowledge, because what will happen is they cannot speak your language, so you're going to feel like the idiot. Even though you probably have a PhD of all of this universal knowledge and ways that could help them out of their sickness and ways that can help them feel more positive, but they're not ready to hear you. So your job is to literally be in total grace and acceptance and compassion for where they are in their journey, locate the wound, and then talk to the child all weekend. Talk to the child within each person that drives you insane all weekend. Or you spend less time with them. You spend more time in the kitchen cooking with grandma or something like that. But the two things that we do as observers, and this will really help you create healthy boundaries, is number one, react to nothing. No matter how much your blood starts to boil, no matter how, angry you get or sad you get, your job is to literally do whatever it is that you can do. Take 10 breaths, go outside, put on your headphones, and come up with a communication that is going to serve the day, which is, I'm going to go get space. I'm not going to react. I'm going to respond. And by the time you've cooled down, you've gone higher perspective and you've looked down at the wounded child, and you know that all they really need is love. And we know that children love attention regardless if it's bad or good. And we're all those children. And they need to love more. And so your second step is being able to practice the art of responding versus reacting. To see everyone who is driving you insane as that wounded little child underneath that's just needing love and attention. Number three is all about you setting your disclaimer. And I love this. I've given this to lots of my clients to do over the course of having to go back for the holidays, having to go spend time with people that they don't necessarily want to be with. And what we do in this step is we throw out a disclaimer. As soon as we walk through the door, we say, okay, everyone, I'm just so excited to be here. We're going to have an amazing time. But I'm just letting you know that I am doing a lot of personal work on myself. I'm working with someone in particular that's helping me. And my job is to stay completely out of the negative and the positive, because stress has really been hurting my body. So if you see me kind of walk away during a conversation, or you see me not interacting, or you see me wanting to be more in solitude while I'm on this family trip, just know that that's the moment where I am working through something personally that has nothing to do with you. And the cool thing about it is, if you set the disclaimer up and you set the tone for how people need to treat you during that week or that day or that hour, they really can respect that, because then when they see you get up and leave, their monkey mind doesn't fill in the gaps of, oh, she doesn't like me. She thinks that she's too good for us. She's all high and mighty. And the truth of it is really what you're doing is communicating through your throat chakra that this is what you need and want. You want to spend time with families that you love, but it's all about moderation, distance, and boundaries. And that's really important for you to be able to throw that, this is how it's going to be conversation and up in front, and then let everybody know that you're going to be working through stuff, and it doesn't need to turn into an ego debate, because as soon as you react, now you're part of the problem. You have become part of the issue, even if you don't believe in the things that they say. An ego triggers an ego, and now you've got to fight. You throw some alcohol in there, too much white sugar, and, sometimes the cops are called. So I'm just letting you know from personal experiences, this is kind of what I've come up with. The next one is get solitude and connect with yourself, which means you are not obligated to spend every waking moment down in the living room or playing that game or going bike riding or whatever it is that families do when they get together this time of year. It is your personal integrity and ability to love self to say, you know what? I would love to come to breakfast, but after breakfast, I'm going to go work on my music, or I'm going to go, go outside in nature. I'm going to go explore. And things like that will really allow you to take your power back in family situations where you feel powerless, where you feel like that kid again that can't be authentic. And that is a great place to connect in solitude with your guidance, with yourself, with your heart. It's very difficult to be positive in a room full of negative people. So sometimes it's just about disconnecting and really and being with yourself. The next one that I came up with was, if you have autoimmune, or you've got allergies, or if you've got something going on with your body that you're really, really working on healing, and you go to, your family's house and all they have is processed junk food, or the food that you can't eat, or you're a vegan and you can't eat anything, and instead of that, and that will drop your vibration down because you will feel disempowered. One of the things that I would recommend that you guys do is make a call ahead of time to whoever's preparing the food. Offer whatever you can bring for the household, which means, want me to bring pies, want me to bring this, but then let them know you're also doing a cleanse, or you're doing a new health-based diet, and so you are going to be preparing your own food, and you will bring enough to share. And that will be a way where you're sitting down at the table and everybody's not now making fun of you because you won't eat what you ate last year, and you've changed, and and basically all that's happened is you were a caterpillar and now you're a butterfly. So you have to have more of your power back. The next one is decluttering. And this one I kind of mean by decluttering your mind, although it's a very important thing to do around the holidays, is to declutter your home. Usually because we get a lot of gifts, we get a lot of new things during this time of year, and it's a great idea for you to, get out there and donate things that you don't want, declutter your house, declutter your mind. And how do we declutter our minds? We meditate. We use the brain tap device here at Transcendence Wellness Center just to get our brains at peace. And I'll tell you the truth, every family function, I bring a brain tap. And I let them all know what I'm doing. And, when they say, oh, that looks like a, programming device, I say, well, here's some clinical research. And usually by the time you leave, everybody's been on it, and it's quite pleasant. So don't be afraid to bring it. And you can use it all from a scientific approach. You don't need to go spiritual, because all the technology is of meditation is basically auto reboot. It's getting you centered. It's getting you back to your free, authentic place. And I would recommend, if you're going to be with a large group of friends or family or people who are not in resonance with you, then you get away at least 1 to 2 times a day for 15 to 20 minutes and get into your personal space of meditation. Okay? All right, so the last one, let's see where my notes are. You've got your meal planning, you've got your brain tap, you've got your mind fit, you've got, oh, my favorite one, I almost forgot. Okay, so this is what I decided that I was going to do this year. We know that as spiritual people, we're not charging an arm and a leg for our sessions. Some of us aren't even coaching and teaching yet. And so we're still kind of working those 3D jobs, yet our passion and our purpose is all of this spiritual work. And this is a really powerful place for us to not become triggered during this holiday season, because you won't go into guilt and shame about not being able to buy everybody's gifts. You won't feel like obligated. And so in Tika and our online live class that I teach, I gave the example of, please, in the month of December, it's all about you, which means that this is the month where really it's time to give your inner child every single thing they've ever wanted. Because I will tell you the truth, ego is just a byproduct of unfulfilled desire, unfulfilled needs and wants. And that's where ego gets inflamed. And so what most of us do is we pull out our credit card and we spend way too much money on gifts for people, so that people will love us, or that people will think we're doing well, or whatever the reasons are behind that. And then we end up doing nothing for ourselves, yet now we've got to pay off that credit card for the rest of next year. So my idea was to, send out a group email to everyone who's going to be at the party and let them know that this year, what you would love to do is you would love for each person to email you and let them know what they would love for you to do for them, which means, your aunt who loves those special cookies that you make, bring those cookies. Does your uncle need his car detailed? Do the kids need to go play at the park so the grown-ups can play a game? So instead of giving gifts, ask them, how could you be of service to them in exchange for not bringing a gift? And really what you're going to do there, I'm a mom of 4, and I know that I'm going to at least spend $1,000 on Christmas gifts, and none of them are extravagant. It's sweaters and pajamas and socks and things like that. But, going off of the month that we just had in Tika, where we talked about being of service during the holidays instead of being the gifts and showing the gifts. But there's a second part to this that I love, because what we're trying to do right now is we're trying to heal the inner child so that when we move into 2017, we will be approaching our goddess energy, our empowerment energy, and no more stories in the back of our mind saying it's not fair and we don't have enough and lack. So what I've taught my students to do this year is become of service to each person on their Christmas list and have them choose something that they would really love from you. And they will be uncomfortable because most of the people don't know how to receive, but you just smile and love them for it. And then for every act of service that you give to someone, whether it's, washing their windows or preparing a meal or helping them set up the Christmas tree or whatever it is in your part of the world that feels good about service, every time you've done a service to someone, what you're going to do is you're going to buy or do something for yourself. So every time you would go shopping normally and buy, your grandmother that great scarf, instead, you're going to buy yourself something. So at the end of Christmas, your inner child is completely healed and fed because you got every single thing you wanted for Christmas. Instead of buying everybody else the things that they wanted for Christmas, you showed up, you did an act of service, and you kept your vibration extremely high the whole time you were around the unconscious people. And this is really important because keeping our vibration to the highest level is going to just spread happiness all over that space that you end up at. And it might be a little uncomfortable and you might have to pretend a little bit when you first get there. But if you follow these 7 steps, what I will have noticed, and I've done this myself many times, is that you stay high vibration, and by the end of your trip, people who are totally cynical about your world are starting to ask you, like, what are you doing? You know, you're so happy and wow, and you're so giving. And really, you gave yourself more, but you were of service to others. And so that is my quick little video blog / podcast on how to survive, you know, how to stay conscious during the holidays. And I hope that you got a little tiny bit of something in this podcast that helps you not have to go into your full-blown anxiety and depression attacks like you normally would this time of year. All right. Bless to all, and we will see you on the other side of this year.